ordered, drawing my bow and raising it high in the air. I released an arrow, watching as it caught fire in midair. The streak of flames crashed into the Osanig's eye, but the arrow merely bounced off the beast's skin. I could see flickers of blue energy forming a thin film around the monster's head. It had some kind of shield spell active. I retreated a few feet back into the jungle, where the many trees would bring me a distinct advantage. "Lay out the traps to the north," I instructed as I scampered up the trunk of a large banyan tree and leapt onto a branch overhead my pupil. "And then hide." Gloria nodded and ran across the sandy ground, all the while preparing a few bear traps that she carried in her pouch. Normally, we'd have set the traps up in advance and then lured the beast to us, but the Osanig was difficult to herd. This was the first time it had shown any signs of aggression in 3 days of chasing and tracking. We'd have to get ready for this fight, and quick. While Gloria began to place the bear traps on the ground, I drew my 2 hand crossbows, each one enchanted with weak earth affinities. These crossbows would hit extra hard and were armor-piercing, meaning I'd have a better chance of breaking the creature's shield spell. Crouching down, crossbows at the ready, I waited for the Osanig to get closer. I had never fought a beast like this before, but an old journal had mentioned a few interesting observations about the monster. Apparently, the quills on the back were poisonous. Getting a single barb in your skin could blind you for life. In addition, the beast primarily used charge attacks and had the strength to knock down trees with ease. I just wished the journal had mentioned something about a shield spell. I was just guessing with the earth elemental affinity and would have preferred to know something concrete about breaking the shield magic. "It's coming," Gloria shouted as she struggled to climb up a few vines to get a foothold on a tree branch. I readied my crossbows and waited, fingers brushing against the triggers. I focused and felt time begin to slow down, ever so slightly, enough for me to react as the beast ran into the tree line and into view. I aimed one crossbow at the beast's face and another at its side, and loosed both at once. The bolts crashed into the creature at the same time. The one aimed at the hog monster's head bounced off, harmlessly enough, but the second one pierced through the magic shield and stabbed deep into the creature's flesh. Instantly, I could see the glowing telltale sign of a weak spot where I had hit. The charging Osanig ceased its running and rolled over onto its side, squealing with rage and pain as it recovered from my wounding shot. I didn't have time to reload, so I dropped the crossbows and drew my bow, aiming at the now exposed stomach of the overturned creature. I only had enough time to snap off a single shot before it rolled back over, but that fire arrow struck true, right into the beast's belly. It let out a louder, angrier shriek and turned straight to face my tree head-on. As I went to draw another arrow, the beast charged into the tree itself, causing everything to shake wildly. Fortunately, I had an impeccable sense of balance thanks to my high acrobatic skills, and I was able to keep my footing while reloading for another shot. I was right above the monster and didn't have a good angle, but I fired a few arrows into its back only to cause minimal damage. The thick fur hide that covered the boar beast soaked up the shots without a problem. Even the fire didn't seem to bother it much. The Osanig backed up a few feet and charged again, slamming its head with full force into the tree, causing it to crack violently. I heard a groaning sound, and then I was beginning to move upwards as the tree fell over. I leapt from the tree, aiming for another branch, but my outstretched arms fell a few inches short, and I plummeted to the ground. Thanks to my safe fall abilities, however, I was able to roll in midair and catch myself for a safe landing. The Osanig took notice and turned to face me, squealing wildly as it scraped the ground with a foot, preparing to charge. It was 30 feet from me, but I knew from experience that a charging beast could clear such a short distance in a startling amount of time. We stared at each other, both waiting for the other to make a move. It seemed to understand what my bow was, glancing at the weapon a few times as we stared each other down. Behind the beast, I could see Gloria, still preparing the last of the traps. She had taken advantage of my distraction to climb back down and finish her work. 3 advanced bear traps were laid out in a cluster wide enough